Welcome, everyone. My name is Melanie McGacken, and I'm excited to host the first session of the Rutgers Community Living Education Project's Prioritizing Your Health and Well-Being webinar series. The Rutgers Community Living Education Project, also known as CLEP, is a program through the Rutgers School of Public Health. The CLEP team can serve as a bridge for self-advocates and families whose loved ones are ready to explore community living options. CLEP is committed to providing individualized support and information surrounding community living resources for people with intellectual and/or developmental disabilities. Today's presentation, Mental Benefits of Exercise and Mindfulness Practices, is being presented by Dr. JoAnne Bullard, Associate Professor in Health and Exercise Science at Rowan University. To access or hide the closed caption feature during today's presentation, please use the meeting toolbar and click the Show Captions icon. This icon is a square with two C's in the middle. If you have any trouble finding that icon, please feel free to send me a chat. To assure the highest sound quality possible, all attendees will be muted during today's webinar. We do, however, like to keep these sessions interactive. To ask a question to the presenter or host, please use the Q&A option on your screen. If you would like to be unmuted to ask your question live, please send a message using the chat feature in your toolbar, and we will make sure to unmute your microphone during your turn at the end of the presentation. Topic-specific questions will be addressed as long as time allows. And for consideration to all of our attendees, we encourage you to keep your questions as general as possible. Without further ado, I am excited to welcome today's presenter, Dr. JoAnne Bullard. Dr. Bullard, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me today. I'm very excited to be talking to all of you and to be really getting into the mental benefits of exercise and discuss what mindfulness is, as well as introduce you to 4 different mindfulness strategies that you can apply throughout your day. So we're gonna jump in and get started. The session objectives, what I hope all of you will walk away from at the end of today's session, is to have a general understanding of the benefits of exercise on both the mind and the body, as well as learning specific mindfulness practices to help you assist in managing stress, enhancing sleep practices, boosting your self-esteem and confidence, as well as improving your overall outlook. So the first area to begin is to start discussing what those mental benefits of exercise are. And before we get into the details, I wanted to make sure that we all have an understanding regarding 4 different types of exercise. And before we get into these 4 categories, it's important to acknowledge that we all, when we think about wellness, when we think about health and well-being, fitness and exercise, they're one of the dimensions of our wellness programming. And we need to understand that we're all at different levels, and what might be exercise to one person might not be considered exercise to somebody else, but movement is powerful. And that's really the end goal here, getting yourself into thinking about moving your body in different ways. So the 4 types of exercise we're going to review are cardiovascular, strength, balance, and flexibility. And to go into each of these a little bit further, I'm going to talk about what the type of exercise means and then give some examples. So for cardiovascular exercise, this is usually broken down into your aerobic system, where we're working your heart and your lungs. The goal of cardiovascular exercise is to increase your heart rate as well as increase your respiration levels. This means that we have a higher output of oxygen as well as blood flow throughout the body. Examples of cardiovascular exercise could be everything from taking a walk with your dog around the block, to running, to cycling, walking up and down the stairs, riding a stationary bike, anything of that nature. It's a very steady component. And when we think about the duration of cardiovascular exercise, It doesn't mean that you have to be doing something consistently for 30 minutes. There's been a lot of research that shows 5 to 10 minutes, chunking out that time throughout your day can be just as beneficial as one 30-minute bout of cardiovascular exercise. Strength is the second type of exercise to discuss. And when we think of strength training, a lot of times we're considering resistance training. And resistance training can be utilized through the form of free weights, machines, as well as resistance bands. And with strength training, what this focus is to have your muscles contract against resistance. By incorporating strength training into your program, you help to increase muscle mass, improve your bone density levels, as well as increase your balance and your joint flexibility. The third type of exercise is balance. And balance is when we're referring to maintaining your equilibrium. This is really focusing on all those muscles in your core and in your legs that help you stand upright. And when we improve our balance, we help obviously enhance our stability, but we also help to prevent against falls. So that's something very important to consider, training those core muscles to help you maintain that equilibrium and that stability for yourself. And the fourth type of exercise is flexibility. And when we think about flexibility, it's being able to move a joint through its range of motion. So common examples of flexibility exercises would be stretching or doing yoga or chair yoga or Pilates of some form. Tai Chi could be another example. But the end goal of flexibility is help to increase the ease of your movement patterns, as well as decrease the stress that's on your joints and also reduce injury risk, which is something important to also consider. So now that we've gone over these 4 different types of exercise, what we're going to move into now are really getting into what are these mental benefits of exercise. And what I was kind of saying in the previous slide was that, we all move differently, but what we do need to recognize is that movement for some people might be very easy. It may be something that's part of their daily life, something that's just part of their routine. And this is where we do need to tune into, what stage, when we think about behavior changes and behavior stages, what stage is the person in? Are they in pre-contemplation? Are they in contemplation? Are they in action? And that absolutely will indicate, the ease or how they get involved with including movement and exercise into their daily life. But when we do incorporate exercise, so many physical benefits, but so many mental benefits too. So one of the first mental benefits of exercise is that exercise is a natural stress reliever. When we exercise, when we move our body, we release those endorphins. And I don't know if any of you have ever experienced this, but sometimes it's harder to convince yourself to start. Sometimes we dread having to work out, or we don't really feel like moving our body. But then after that workout or after that walk around the block or whatever it might be, we usually feel good, right? We usually feel a little bit more that we were able to, not look at our phones, not check our emails, and just tune into ourselves. And maybe we feel a little bit lighter, like with our spirits and with our outlook. Maybe we feel that that stress level and anxiety level has decreased in that moment of time. We may also notice that our self-confidence level improves. So think about it. There could be maybe a form of exercise when we think about those different types of exercises we just stated. Maybe flexibility has always been something that's intimidating to you. Maybe you think like stretching is hard for me. It's not easy. But then maybe you make it part of your routine and you stretch for 5 minutes each day or 10 minutes each day. And then you notice that, wow, like I've done this. I've really am making these strides to help myself improve my flexibility. And you start to feel good, right? You start to notice that those confidence levels pick up and you feel successful at what you've been accomplishing. A big area for most people is sleep. And it's usually the first area that we skim out on. because there's only 24 hours in a day. And if we want to get things done, the one thing we can cut out or decrease would be the number of hours we sleep. Not a good idea, right? So through exercise naturally helps us move into our different stages of REM levels with sleep, meaning that we'll have better sleep quality and sleep depth when we are engaging in exercise. Exercise naturally helps us manage anxiety. And a big connection piece is, as we said before, when confidence levels boost up, anxiety levels will naturally drop. So they're inversely related. Those times in our lives when anxiety levels climb and climb and climb, we may notice that our self-talk, our thought processes, our confidence usually declines, right? Because our anxiety is higher. So by building that confidence up through exercise, we can slowly begin to drop those anxiety levels. Exercise also helps us with memory and with cognition, which is very important. It also helps with coordination, right? So just developing movement patterns that at first might seem a little awkward or not normal, but then as you develop those movement patterns, they help with the cognition process. You create muscle memory, and those patterns that were once challenging tend to become a little bit easier over time. Our energy levels tend to boost and increase when we're working out or when we're active, and our mood changes, right? We usually have more of a positive outlook in life when we are connected to our body through movement. All right, so, and the list goes on. These are just a couple of benefits mentally that I thought were important to address, and there's many, many more that could be added. So now we're going to shift our gears and talk a little bit more about mindfulness and what it means to be mindful, and then getting into some strategies. So when we consider being mindful, I work a lot with college athletes. I have a background in sports psychology, so we discuss mindfulness quite a bit. And one thing I always say to them, and it's something I also try to remind myself about too, is this quote that is, "Be present where your feet are planted." And that really embodies what it means to be mindful. When we're mindful, we are allowing ourselves to live in the right now. And that right now means we're not physically here, at what is it, 12:13 p.m. And we are not thinking about what's happening at 12:25 p.m. We're literally focused on 12:13 p.m. What is going on in this moment right now? We're not thinking forward. We're not thinking backwards. We just are. And that's challenging, to embrace that style mindset. But being mindful really can help you with learning more about who you are. It can help you enhance your self-awareness. And if we enhance self-awareness, we're then going to be able to enhance self-regulation, as well as implementing appropriate coping strategies when necessary. So mindfulness, right? Living in that present moment. I like to also tell people, like, when you're in that moment, it's not just saying like, okay, I'm here, like I'm focused for the right now, but really like soak it in, incorporate your senses. Think about, what do you see right now? What do you hear? What do you feel? What do you smell? If you're eating or drinking something, what do you taste? There's a lot of mindfulness activities centered around like drinking water or coffee or a soda or a beverage and eating, and really paying attention to the textures and the taste. And it may sound so silly, but those are pieces that we usually take for granted and we don't slow down for, right? So really incorporating all of these senses and learning to be aware of the right now. Another major component of mindfulness is acceptance. And this is hard, right? This is challenging, to be accepting of yourself, because your mind usually likes to tell you, what you're doing incorrectly, what needs to be fixed, what you might be concerned or worried about. Oh, I was here the last time and this happened, right? And our mind and our thoughts go a whole different way. But with the mindfulness practice, you're working on acceptance without judging yourself. So if you have a thought, instead of judging yourself for thinking in this way or like having that type of cognitive process, you're just saying, thank you. You know, I understand this is how I'm feeling right now. You know, take a breath, calm down, recenter, and move forward with what you're doing. And that's something that takes time. It doesn't happen overnight, but that non-judgmental approach is so, so very important to begin adopting. Okay, so before we get into talking about, I have 4 different mindfulness strategies that I'm going to introduce to you today. But what I do want to say before we get there is some of you may already be incorporating mindfulness practices and have your take on what works for you or what doesn't work for you. Some of you, when we go through these strategies, not everything is going to connect for you, and that's okay. So just like I tell my athletes, even what I tell my students is the piece right here to be aware of is education, right? You're learning these strategies and it's kind of like you're putting them in your toolbox. And you never know when you may have to go into that toolbox and pick one of them up. And sometimes strategies that don't work today could work for you in 3 years, right? It's just maybe what you needed at that point in time. So being open and being aware is the most important piece. All right. So what we're going to, there we go. What we're going to look at now are these 4 different strategies. We're going to be first starting off with breath work, then getting into journaling, followed by gratitude, and then body scan meditations. Okay. So breath work is probably one of my most favorite mindfulness practices for myself, but to also teach other people about, because I feel like so many can connect to understanding how their breath is talking to them. When we think about breathing, breathing is an involuntary process in the body. I don't know about you, but I don't wake up in the middle of the night to be like, okay, still breathing, go back to sleep, right? It's something that just naturally occurs. But our breath tells us the stories throughout the day. Think about times when you have felt anxious or stressed or worried or just, man, there's so much on my plate right now. I don't know what's happening, right? And you notice that your breath maybe becomes more labored. The breath may become more shallow. You may also get more tension in your shoulders or in your neck, or that's when the headaches begin, right? Versus those times where maybe think about like when you're relaxed, when you're feeling confident, when you're feeling good, when you're feeling just like present in the moment and in the zone, your breathing tends to be more at rest, right? So it's not as labored. The breath tends to be deeper in your body from your diaphragm. And usually your heart rate will be lower, your blood pressure will be lower at that time too. So if you connect to this idea of breath work, you're really connecting to your breath and using that as the educational point for yourself. Within our nervous system, I'm sure a lot of you have heard of fight or flight, and that's in the sympathetic branch of our nervous system. That's when we are activated. Stress, anxiety, worry, hesitation, that to-do list, life stress, right? We go into fight or flight. It's survival mode. But if we're constantly revving in fight or flight, our bodies get tired. We can only be there so long before we start to experience burnout. We start to experience feeling run down. We get sick, right? And what is so necessary is that we need to have a modality in place to turn off the fight or flight and kick on the parasympathetic nervous system, which is basically the brakes, right? Slows everything down. Breathing, breath work. That's a great way to do that. Okay, so some examples for breath work. Now, I listed 3 here that we're going to run through. There's a lot more too. So you may be listening to this and be like, okay, this makes sense, but I don't use any of those types of breath work. I have a different one I use, and that's perfect. Whatever you connect to is great. So actually, before I get to these examples, here's what I want to address. And I forgot to say this before, so I apologize. But what I want you to, again, visualize and think about is when you are breathing and you're able to control your breath and take nice, deep breaths, right? If we want to slow down our heart rate, slow down our blood pressure, tap into that parasympathetic nervous system, we need to transfer our breath from our chest into our diaphragm right under our rib cage. When we're stressed, anxious, or worried, a lot of times we we kind of like pant like a dog, right? So our chest is rising, our chest is falling. Very shallow, very quick breathing. At rest, long, deep breaths coming from our diaphragm. So as you go through these exercises, what's important to remember is the goal is we want to turn off breathing through our chest and turn on breathing through our diaphragm under our rib cage, as well as relaxing our shoulders instead of scrunching those shoulders up, which is a very common thing we do. Okay. And that takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. It's a process to learn how to do that. But once you connect with it and it works, you can totally tell the difference. So one example is box breathing. Box breathing is really great for individuals who like to visualize or have to basically like see something in order for it to connect, which is perfect. But what you would do is you would basically visualize a square or a box. Each side of the square will count as 4 seconds, okay? So what you'll do is you'll start in the bottom of one of the corners of the box, and through your nose, you will slowly inhale, relaxing your shoulders, relaxing your chest. You'll inhale through your nose for a count of 4 until you get to the top. Then you're going to hold that inhale at the top for a count of 4. And then you'll slowly exhale through your mouth for a count of 4 as you go down the side of the box. Then you hold at the bottom of the exhale for a count of 4 as you get back to that start. And then you can repeat it. Okay. What's great is that you don't have to do this for 5 minutes. You can, but it could be something that's effective just going through it 3 or 4 times. You may notice that, okay, I feel more present, I feel more focused, I feel more centered. There's a lot of YouTube videos out there too that have really great diagrams and just interactive videos for box breathing if it's something you want to look into more. Diaphragmatic breathing, I guess I already talked about. I should have flipped that bullet point over, but diaphragmatic breathing is, some people may call it belly breathing. So that's where you're transferring that panting style breathing from your chest into really focusing on breathing from your diaphragm. What I like to tell people to do until they get comfortable with how to really take themselves through it is place one hand on your chest and one hand on your belly. I think lying down is the best way to do this versus sitting in a chair, because when we sit in a chair, we tend to slouch, and curl a little bit. Lying down, we're nice and straight. So the goal here is as you inhale and exhale, the hand on your chest doesn't move. The hand on your belly, that's what moves. Okay, that's showing you that your diaphragm is working. So as you inhale, you're basically thinking about like taking your belly button and extending it away from your spine. So your belly should be rising. It should be filling up like a balloon kind of. And then as you exhale through your mouth, you'll slowly be bringing that belly button back towards your spine and your belly would come back in. So you'd be like deflating that balloon and repeating that a couple of times through. And then another style is known as nostril breathing. Some people connect to this, some people don't. Nostril breathing is where you will be basically using your fingers. I know this is odd through Zoom to be looking at this right now, but you will be using your fingers to be closing off one of your nostrils. And what you will do is if you close, say, your right nostril, you will then inhale using your left nostril. Once you get to the top of the inhale with your left nostril, you will switch and put your index finger on that left nostril, then exhale out through your right nostril. And then you would continue to repeat that process. Inhale through one nostril, exhale through another nostril, and continue to go through that cycle. And again, there's a lot of other different styles or techniques of breath works. These are the 3 that I find most people are either familiar with or they tend to connect with a little bit more. And if you have questions about any of them, I'm happy to answer more when we get to the end of the session. The next strategy is journaling. And journaling is extremely powerful because I don't know about you, but when I have a lot on my mind, it's almost like you get into that brain fog, hard to concentrate, hard to organize tasks, right? I feel like it's like ping pong up in my brain, like do this, wait, I have to do that, right? And we go back and forth and back and forth. Journaling allows us to release our thoughts from our brain through our hand and out. It's a very therapeutic way to release. Pausing and just saying what's on your mind is one thing, but that's not as therapeutic as actually putting pen to paper, old school, right? And writing it out. That transfer is very, very helpful in releasing those thoughts, those feelings, those emotions. Journaling has different styles. Some people like to free write, where they'll just get kind of like the picture here, an empty notebook, and just be like, okay, here I go, right? And just write whatever's on their mind. They don't think too much about it. And when they're finished, they're finished. Others might like to journal where there are prompts provided, whether it be a motivational quote or a theme or phrase for the day that they're sort of responding to. So that could be another style. But regardless of how you connect to it and you like to use it, continue to use it. What I always suggest with journaling is you don't have to necessarily read it back to yourself, right? So this is where the mindfulness comes into play. If you're so worried about spelling and grammar and punctuation and, oh my gosh, what am I writing down right now? Then we're taking away from the mindfulness because we're trying to work on perfection, right? So allowing yourself to have this freedom to kind of decompress and allow these emotions, thoughts, and feelings to release from your brain is very therapeutic. Some benefits of journaling include enhancing emotional wellness. Sometimes you may not even realize something is on your mind, and once it's released, like you feel that weight lifted, or you feel a little bit more in control in the moment, or more present and clear with what you want to do for that day. Self-awareness tends to improve. And if you haven't guessed by now, self-awareness is key with everything regarding mindfulness, right? The more self-aware you are, as I said before, the more self-regulated you are, and the more open you would most likely be to including coping mechanisms and strategies when necessary. Journaling helps to reduce stress levels because, again, it's just a therapeutic way to get what's off your mind, or get what's in your mind out of your mind and onto paper. Some may even refer to journaling as brain dumping. I don't know if any of you have heard of that before, but where they set a timer for 2 minutes and you just go, okay, go. And anything on your mind, you just allow it to fall out. And then when it's done, right? And you move forward from there. Another benefit is it helps to decrease brain fog. So it helps when you're finished, you have more clarity, more attention to what you want to be moving forward to with the rest of the day. And stress levels tend to also decrease. Now, one question I usually get about journaling is, does it have to be done in the morning, right when I get up? No. Implement it where it fits best for you throughout the day. Some days that could be in the morning. Some days it might be before night. Wherever it fits is perfect, right? So the whole concept is we just want to include it and incorporate it. Some like to have music playing in the background. I always say just set up a time for yourself when you're not feeling distracted, where there's not a lot of external noise, where you can really be peaceful with yourself for a couple minutes to allow those thoughts to flow. The next mindfulness strategy is gratitude. And gratitude practices are so, just like the other two, I keep saying they're so powerful, but they are so powerful. When we express gratitude, we're really recognizing what we're thankful for in having in our lives. And some days, what you express gratitude for could be extremely big and large, and, you're grateful for this, humongous event that just happened in your life. And other days it could be you're grateful for that cup of coffee, or you're grateful for your dog or being able to walk around the block. I mean, so it can shift, it can change. And that's the good thing about gratitude, right? There is no correct thing that you have to write down regarding what you're actually grateful for. But what's been shown through research is that gratitude helps you feel more optimistic, right? It helps you feel overall more uplifted, more positive. Um, it also helps you just by recognizing these pieces in your life. It does help shift the intention through the rest of the day. That's been something that's been shown through a number of research studies. Gratitude also helps to reduce your stress levels, right? Because I don't know about you, but a lot of times when feeling stressed or anxious, it's hard to see the positive, right? It's hard to be grateful for those small pieces in our life that really make us feel good, right? Because we're so focused on something else or worried about something that maybe we have no control over, but is taking over our day and our mind and all of that. So it can help us reduce those stress levels. It can also help us improve relationships with other people. So maybe you write down one day that you're grateful for, your best friend, and maybe you haven't seen that best friend for 5 years, and you pick up the phone, right? Or you send a text or an email, or you connect on social media, right? But it could help kind of reignite certain relationships or continue those relationships that you already have, right? You just are more appreciative of relationships in your life. And then a fourth benefit of gratitude is it really helps assist you in emotional regulation. So when we think about emotional regulation, when we're feeling dysregulated emotionally, we can manifest that in a number of different ways. So everyone on this call, when we go through dysregulation, we experience it very uniquely, right? But some may say they have a hard time focusing, a hard time centering, a hard time even cooking dinner or knowing what to write down on their to-do list, or they forget things that they're supposed to accomplish because they're just not really connecting in. Some may describe sensory changes or overload that they experience and they start to shut down. So gratitude is a way that creates that pause when we're experiencing dysregulation and can assist us in shifting into more of a regulatory process. Now, just like journaling, I personally don't believe there have to be ground rules for gratitude practices. Incorporating gratitude is the important part. But we can do it different ways. So some people may have a journal where they start out with 5 things I'm grateful for today. Boom, 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 right? And then that's that. Others may need to have prompts, and there's tons of different gratitude style journals that are in bookstores online that you can buy, and they tell you what to kind of be focusing and thinking on. So that would be more of the guided prompt way. And there's also a bunch of apps. Some apps, I've kind of played around with them to see what's out there, but some apps will have you, they'll send like reminders throughout the day that make you kind of pause and think about like, okay, right now at 12:30, what am I grateful for in my life? I've seen some apps where they have you actually take pictures about what you're grateful for, if that's an opportunity for you. So there's different ways that you can incorporate gratitude, and it's whatever connects best with you. And then the last strategy is body scan meditation. Now, the reason why I selected body scan meditation over traditional meditation is I thought, especially being in the Zoom world right now, it might be easier for all of us to visualize body scan versus just traditional meditation styles, but they complement each other. So with body scan meditation, as you see from the picture here, right, you would be setting yourself up in a place of relaxation, whether it be on a yoga mat, or I find a lot of clients and individuals I work with tend to like to incorporate this before bed because it actually helps ease them into sleep because they're starting to shut off their thought processes and focus in on the body. And then you just naturally kind of get into that moment of calmness, which could help promote sleep quality. But the concept with body scan meditation is when you're in this relaxed position, you're not doing anything. Okay, so you're going to calm yourself down, take a couple deep cleansing breaths, shut your eyes. Hopefully there's no distractions going on around you. So TV's off, hopefully no one's running around the house or whatever it might be. But when you close your eyes and get your breath under control, what you're going to do is you're simply going to start at the top of your body and go just like body group through body group and literally scan your body through all these different muscle groups from head to toe and notice how you're feeling, right? Are you feeling tense in your shoulders? Are you feeling relaxed in your shoulders, right? If you notice those areas of tension, some people will implement the phrase, I accept this, or let it go, right? And then just simply move to the next body part and repeat. So through using body scan meditations, what's been found, and these are very common, if you couldn't tell by now, with other benefits from the additional strategies, but we have the enhanced self-awareness, right? You're more in tune with yourself. As I mentioned before, sleep quality improves, especially if you utilize it before going to bed. Self-compassion also increases, right? And a big part, and I guess I didn't talk about this previously, but a lot of times people may struggle with mindfulness and self-acceptance because when we are going through like a non-judgmental acceptance of ourself, that leads us into becoming more vulnerable. Right? And that's an area that most humans are like, no, I don't want to talk about that. Thank you, though, right? And when we're more vulnerable, our emotions are more involved, right? We're more in tune with ourselves as well as other people. And for some of us, it's easier not to open that box, right? And keep that closed. But the goal of mindfulness, if we want to really embrace it, is the self-awareness and self-compassion, as well as acceptance through vulnerability, does come into play. Body scan meditation also helps relieve stress and again, builds in that non-judgmental approach. So really with the rules, I guess you could say, or the instructions for body scan meditation, just like with the others, you would figure out how it works best for you. Some people like to do the scan head to toe, toe to head, and just kind of assess how we're feeling and then kind of shut down the practice. Others might take that into, I'm going to do the body scan, then incorporate an additional meditation practice, maybe another 5 minutes or so, where they're just with their eyes closed, working on their breathing and just focusing on, acceptance and focusing on, being in tune with themselves in that moment, right? So you can create the practice however it works best for you. And then that is actually it. The 4 strategies of mindfulness and a little bit about those benefits.
Dr. Bullard, thank you so much. I do want today's attendees to know that when a mutual, a professional friend referred Dr. Bullard to me when I was explaining a little bit about what we were looking for in regards to this season's webinars. First of all, you came highly recommended, and I absolutely understand why. But the focus of the point of us reaching out through the Community Living Education Project was specifically to find out the mental health benefits of exercise and mindful practices, specifically for people with intellectual developmental disabilities, their caregivers, and families. But after listening to this is really beneficial to any and everyone. I think many of the people, I'm getting some private messages asking for a copy of this webinar so that they can share it with others. I have to say, for one, I'm absolutely going to be sharing this with some family members, but also with my son's direct support professionals, right? It's a stressful job that they have. We are grateful for them. But I think some of these practices actually can be put to beautiful use within that field. So I'm absolutely going to be forwarding this recording. I do want to let everyone know that we do have some extra time here, so please feel free to use the chat or Q&A section. You can absolutely ask any general questions that you have about today's topic. I did collect some that came in so far through email. Let's see. Someone shared that they use a form of journaling, and they keep a notebook next to their nightstand for their own sleep health in the evening, that it helps settle their mind. Is this similar to the practice that you were speaking about?
Yeah, that's a great strategy. And that's what I was trying to convey. These strategies need to be incorporated in your life, wherever they fit best. So if it's before bed and it helps you kind of brain dump out, get those thoughts out, and then it makes you feel better, so that way you can turn things off and get ready to go to sleep. That's awesome. That's great.
The first time that I did any mindful practices, it was through, at the time, I guess I would call it a guided meditation. And I was in a room with other families. It was actually during a very stressful time in my life. And I was sitting with other families in a room. Someone was guiding us, but they actually just put on a YouTube video, and it had very soothing music in the background. And they essentially walked us through some of the breathing techniques that you were sharing today. And it was probably one of the first times ever that I truly felt that my mind was cleared and I was not thinking about anything in that moment, right? Except for the breaths. And it takes a little bit of time, right? To be able to do those breathing techniques correctly, but really focusing on the breath, it was exactly what I needed at that moment. So there is great benefit to some of the practices that you were sharing. So I will, just restate that we will absolutely be sharing a copy of this recording with everyone who attended today, and along with the people who weren't able to attend. And we will also send out a PDF version of the PowerPoint that Dr. Bullard was able to share with us. We have deep breathing. Let's see. I'm trying to better understand what this person was trying to ask. I think they were asking about the deep breathing, the box exercise. Can you walk through that one more time? I think
Yes,
that's what they're asking for.
absolutely. So box breathing, you want to literally visualize a square or a box, and each side of the box counts for 4 seconds. Okay, so it's a 12 each round of the box is a total of 4, 4, 4, 4, right? As we go through it, 16 seconds. So what you'll do is you'll start at the bottom of one of the sides of the box. And as you go up the side, you're going to be focusing on inhaling through your nose for a slow count of 4. A lot of us in the beginning might be like, right? And then we're like, oh man, I still have 2 more seconds, right? So that's where over time you get more of that sense of control, but a nice slow count of 4 as you inhale. When you get to the top of the box, instead of just, and letting it go, you're going to hold at the top of the inhale for a steady count of 4. And then when you're ready to go down the next side of the box, you're going to slowly exhale through your mouth for a count of 4. And then hold at the bottom of the exhale for a count of 4. So, and then you can repeat it as many times as you want. But the premise here is it's helping you take control of your breath instead of just the traditional breathing patterns. So that hold sometimes could be very challenging in the beginning until you get comfortable with, okay, 4 seconds, 4 seconds, and kind of moving through in that pattern. There's a lot of great YouTube videos for it too that provide the visual with it also.
I love the YouTube videos, right? Because it provides that timing. Because so often I'm trying to do the count, right? The 1,
Yes,
2, 3, 4, where they almost prompt you when it's time to move
that's
on,
true.
and then it just becomes more natural.
Yep.
Dr. Bullard, we have a question in the Q&A section. Someone is sharing that they have a parent who has dementia and is stressed about almost anything throughout the day. They also have a child who has a diagnosis of autism and is frequently anxious. The person is sharing that they love the nostril breathing exercises for him. And they want to know if there are any picture schedules available for any or all of the meditation and breathing techniques available anywhere. So I'm not sure if you have any resources. If not, I would have some suggestions also.
I'm just making sure I understand. They're looking for,
So some visuals, a
oh,
picture
for
schedule or
how,
visuals of to prompt someone how to go
oh,
through some of
yeah.
these.
Yeah, I'm sure we could find them online very easily, probably too. And they probably have the step by step, or again, another video, another YouTube video. But definitely could, they most likely are available online. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think one of the things, and actually my family uses this a lot with my son, some of the deep breathing exercises. We found what was really beneficial is if whoever is in a room with him at that time, either one or it's usually all of us, will model, right? We'll do it all together. And we find that to be really beneficial. But if there are visuals that we could find, such as PECs or different visuals.
Mhm.
It might be great to incorporate a timer for that individual, if that would be helpful, or even using your iPhone to do those 4 counts. And also maybe even making your own video, right?
Oh, yeah.
A quick video on your phone of yourself or someone that person is very connected with, guiding them through that practice might be helpful also.
Yeah, those are great strategies.
Let's see. We have someone saying, I love the gratitude strategy practice, being grateful. And I love to share that I love to share not only by saying it out loud or writing it, but by telling people I love why and what it is I'm grateful to them for.
That's great.
I know this
That's
person, and she
excellent.
does do that. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time and information. I am someone who struggles with anxiety and has a seizure disorder. I am so excited to incorporate the tools you have shared with us, and I know they are really going to help. A wonderful presentation, and I would agree, wonderful presentation. So thank you so much. We're going to give everyone just another few seconds to get in any of the questions that you may have. And then, Dr. Bullard, can you just go to the next screen?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. So again, we want to thank you so much for sharing your time and expertise with us today. I do just want to quickly share how you can reach out to the Community Living Education Project. Again, we're associated with Rutgers University, the Rutgers School of Public Health. You can use this QR code that's on your screen right now to sign up for any of our newsletters, special announcements, any of our publications. You'll receive emails for information sessions such as the one today. Below, you'll find the CLEP contact information. We have Natalie Trump and my number also on that screen for you to reach out to, as well as the rest of the CLEP team's email addresses. And if you can just advance one more slide. Great. And this is going to be the QR code. You should receive a prompt as we're saying goodbye today. And it's going to allow you to take a very brief 30-second post-evaluation. It's information that you provide us today that allows us to better serve our community tomorrow. Again, very quick. Let me just check the chat section, make sure we don't have any additional questions that are coming in. No more questions, but a lot of praise for you, Dr. Bullard. So thank you so much. On behalf of the Community Living Education Project and the rest of the team, thank you so much for joining us today. Again, this was part 1 of a series. We will make sure that we get the additional presentation links out to all of you so you can register for the upcoming sessions. Thank you so much for taking your lunch break and joining us today. And Dr. Bullard, to you, to Rowan University, thank you so much for sharing your time and expertise. Greatly beneficial, I'm sure, to everyone who has attended today. Just by the chat section, we can see that. So thank you again.
Thank you so much for having me, and I'm so happy to hear that this connected with all of you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Be well, please.
Thank you too.
Bye, everyone.